Good morning. My name is Philip Denny, president of the USGovCert. USGovCert is a platform that we designed to bring some ease to the certification journey. Um, Again, I'm Philip Denny. I am a government contractor. I've been in the government in the field of providing services to the U.S. federal government for over 20 years. Um, over that span of time, I've pursued um, many certifications. One of the things that I have noticed is that over the years, um, many changes have taken place in government contracting. Among those changes include the bundling of federal contracts. Um, and there are sometimes hundreds of people responding to these large IDIQs, and the government has looked for ways uh, to to peer or to maybe cut down on the number of companies that they have to evaluate. So I think one of the methods that they have used is to require that bidders certify in some standards. This isn't necessarily a bad thing because standards have allowed me to look intently at my organization and maybe change processes that need to change. And I really, small businesses, given the fact that we wear so many, those in small businesses wear so many hats, you don't necessarily have the luxury of setting aside time. Going after a standard does force you to do that. Um, I've been a prime contractor I've been a subcontractor. Um, so going after these standards has forced me to look at my company internally. And at the same time, I knew that the process was not, there had to be an easier way to go after standards. So we actually, as a software company, decided to build a platform um, to help ease our internal journey in pursuing standards. With me today, I have Amit. Amit is a certification expert, and he has helped many companies in North America and in Asia um, go through the certification journey. So today, this is the second part of a two-part um, series where we discuss the common certifications that you typically see for government contracting. Last week we discussed the CMMI certification and an ISO certification. What we see that journey, what we view as the important parts of that journey. How can companies who are thinking about engage or going after those certifications, what they should expect? Today, we're going to finish up that series by talking about CMMC and NIST. The couple of the hallmarks of these certification journeys is that this is fully a self-certifying standard. CMMC, if you're pursuing level 1 of CMMC, which is probably what the vast majority of firms will pursue, that part is self-certifying. In addition to that, part of level 2 is also self-certifying. So I'm going to turn this over to Amit so he can again introduce himself and maybe give a recap of what we went through last week, but spend most of his time talking about where we are in the where company can how a company can use decide which certification path is best for them and answer any questions that you might have. So, Amit, I turn this over to you. You're welcome, Amit.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Philip. Thanks for having me. Um, yeah, just as Philip introduced, I have interests in certifications and process management and process improvement. I'm myself a Six Sigma exponent and agile practitioner. In addition, I'm also CMMI certified lead appraiser and instructor. on development and services views of the CMI model. Uh, and I'm also a lead auditor on multiple ISO standards, right from quality management system to information security management to business continuity. And uh, hope to have a good discussion. And to the participants, a very good morning. And you can always put the questions in chat. We'll be happy to take as many questions as you would want. And Philip, your first question itself is a very difficult question. How should a company decide what certifications they are really going to look for? So, last couple of weeks back, we talked about three ISO standards. We talked about ISO 9001, which is quality management system, 20,000 IT service management, and 27,001 information security management system. Why did we discuss these three? Because these three I have seen most commonly being sought after, especially by people who are in US Fed and defense contracting business. Now, are these the only ISO standards that can help an organization make process improvement? Well, no. There are many, many more. And selecting the right standard, not just because your contractual requirement is that, or in future you may be asked for a certification on that, should not be a single qualifying criteria. I'll give an example here. I've seen some of my known contacts asking, can we go for a certification on there's a ISO standard which is on laboratory test management system. And they asked me this question. I asked, but you guys are not a laboratory. You are essentially a software services or other program management or other type of services you provide. Why do you need a laboratory testing certification? They say, well, we have a an RFQ that's going to come out, and it may have this as a requirement. But it's not an alignment to your business itself. So I think blindly going for what the IDIQs want us to have, and rather focusing on which are the ones that are core to our business. For example, information security. Now, in today's world, that is core to everybody. Information is important. Protecting the information is extremely important. So if somebody says, hey, I want ISO 27001 along with NIST and CMMC, makes sense, irrespective of the type of business you are. But you're trying to go for an IT service management system, which is ISO 20,000, and you don't even provide IT services, well, that's something which is not at all advisable.
Good. One of the there are, you just touched upon this, the fact that there are tons and tons of certifications. And what I heard you say is that if you are going to pursue a certification, that certification should have some core relationship to your business.
Yes.
So that's really an important that's really an important component of deciding what certifications to go after. Most of these certifications are you're required to either recertify on a yearly basis. In the case of the self-certifications, NIST 800 171, or every 3 years if we have to recertify in the case of the CMMI level 3 or any of the ISO certifications. Oftentimes, once you've gone through the certification, there's an all hands on deck approach to getting the certification. But then You get the certification, and what you tend to do is to put that on the shelf and don't think about that until you have to recertify. And by the time you have to recertify, um, the staff has moved on to other projects or they've moved on to other companies. Um, what are some ways that that a small company can make sure that this isn't a kind of an all hands on deck event every time they have to certify? How can a small company maintain some familiarity with the certification standards so that they can improve, so that it is all not new? But there's another follow-on question I have after that regarding how can a company um, uh, continue to improve their processes even after certifying.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, good question, Philip. And a typical problem that not just, I would say, small businesses alone, I even see some mid-size or sometimes even large businesses go through this, that they celebrate the certification journey like a big festival. And once the festival is over, everything is put inside the shelf and then it will be taken out after 1 year or 2 year or 3 year period. Uh, and for that, again, we have to go back to the fundamental reason why we are going for a certification. Well, going for a certification to improve our competitiveness in the market, to clear those qualifying criteria for new business, that's good. But the fundamental reason why a company should go for any certification, especially considering the fact that they are investing quite a bit of money, time, effort, energy on this, is to have some permanent impact on the way they go about doing their business, the way they go about their processes. And first and foremost for me would be, if I have to point one reason why most of the certification journeys are not able to maintain the same rigor and discipline post achieving or completing a certification process, is over reliance on consultants. Most of the organizations would hire a consultant. They themselves would not spend as much time to understand the standard or model they are getting into. They don't invest time to read through that standard. They don't even make their consultants train them on those standards so that knowledge is getting accumulated within the organization. Project ends, certification done, consultant moves. Maybe one or two key people in the company who got these credentials, they also move, as you rightly said, with time. Things are back to square one. But if rather than just focusing on certification, we make these process changes as way of life and use these to actually optimize our work, use these to actually gain day-to-day dollar savings on our operational expenses or commitments, then automatically certification or no certification, because we are saving money by
mhm,
virtue of these process optimizations in the company, we would continue to do those things.
absolutely.
And the moment we are able to connect our company's business objectives or the big vision with our process adoption or process certification objectives, and these two tie together, then it no longer remains an effort that is just to get that paper certificate. It is then an effort which is helping me save money every day. And I'm doing the business to basically make money.
Hmm. That's true. So how would you, in order to maintain that connection between the certification and the underlying process that the certification is meant to help you implement in your company, How
Mm,
frequently should you look at your processes? How frequently should you sit down with your management staff and say, hey, um, uh, what are we doing, or what has changed within the organization that would
mm,
cause a change in processes?
mm. Yes, good question. So there are two levels at which we should be looking at our ongoing process implementations. One is an individual project level. So you have 5 projects running, and each of these projects you need to evaluate whether we are following the requisite processes or not. And then overall as an organization, the core central functions of the organization, like maybe your operations, your HR, or your finance, or your administration, your management team, project management. Uh, and the frequencies could be quite customized and different. I'll give you an example here. There's a large project, let's say, that you have won, and this project requires you to set up uh, a 20-member support team on
Mhm.
diversified areas. There are few people who are doing IT support. There are few people who are maybe giving some sort of a project management consultancy. There are 4 or 5 testing support guys and 2 or 3 call support people. And now this project is uh, almost the same size as your organizational strength prior to you winning this contract. So in this case, I would recommend to an organization that as the project is starting and picking up pace, you please make sure that you are looking at your processes and process adoptions very, very frequently, maybe once a week in first couple of months, then slowing it down to once a month as things start to stabilize.
Okay.
And when at the end of that 1 year, you win another 4 option years because the customer is happy and things are looking very settled, then you may say, no, things are looking good. Maybe not bad, maybe once in 3 months or once in 6 months, even that is fine for me. But as a company, as an overall unit, I would say don't delay your internal checks to anytime later than at least once a quarter. At least once a quarter. That would be a good frequency. And because uh, organizations who try to do it annually or once in 6 months, there's too much activity. It already goes by in such a long period. And then it becomes more of a postmortem analysis rather than correction.
Okay, that makes sense. Um, we touched upon it earlier in terms of the high costs for a small business to pursue a certification standard. What are some cost containment measures that you have seen that most small businesses can engage in? How do we save money
Mhm.
when we go after a
Yeah,
standard?
good question. So if let's say you are in federal business space and your focus is, okay, some of my contracts are asking for 27,001, some are asking for NIS, some are asking for CMMC, some are asking for ISO 20,000, some want CMMI services. You look at the logically related group of standards or models. So for example, all security related,
Mhm.
ISO 27001, NIST 800, 171, CMMC put together. You take any one of them, implement it to the T. Take the easiest one first, but keep the focus on the overall big picture requirements of the other 2 standards. So when you are implementing your ISO 27001, for example, ideally you should be covering almost 70 to 80% of your NIST 800, 171 already.
Okay.
And then, because you yourself are driving this effort, when you later on hire a consultant for you on NIST 800, 171, you have to make the consultant look at this fact that you have 75 to 80% things in place and you are only looking for that 25% delta. and accordingly negotiate the time and effort.
Okay.
Don't just go for a pre-packaged deal, but rather make your consultant do an as-is assessment of
Okay.
what exactly is the gap. And based on the gap, you decide the fixed period and the consulting hours you need. So that is where one core optimization can be there. Second, which I touched upon in the very beginning, companies pay $20,000 happily for a certification, but they don't buy a standard which is 100 or $150. So invest that $100, whether it's a ISO standard or a CMMI model, or for that matter, a free one like NIST 800 171, and give yourself some time to go through it so that you know exactly what it is.
Okay.
And then you are able to talk to your consultant in that language and set right expectations, agree to right timelines, because every day counts, every billing loss counts for you as a small business.
That's very, very good information. Um, uh, when we first went after the standard, it began, we paid the um, the consulting costs, but did not do the basic like you just recommend, which is to go either download or actually buy the standard and have it internally um, available to me and other people in the organization who might be interested. Um, so in terms of um, triggering a look at your processes, um, what I can imagine there are some things that occur in the life of a small business that would want that would suggest that the business should look at their processes. For example, the merger
Mhm.
of operations. That's one thing that the business might want to say, hey, how are our processes? How are our processes? Are they still appropriate for this new company? Or are they in a major contract that takes them into uh, another field of endeavor, another type of work? Those are a couple. Um, are they? They're probably up. There got to be. There are other triggering functions that a business might want to say, hey, let's see if our processes are okay. What else would you recommend a business? What periods in the life of a business would you recommend the business look to see if they need to change their processes?
Okay. So there are, as you rightly said, those mergers, acquisitions, these are big events. Definitely yes on those. In addition, let's say you get a customer complaint or an
Okay,
escalation from customer. Well, that's a moment for you to actually sit down and do a
okay,
deep dive causal analysis and understand which part of the process did not function as expected and where are the changes needed. Or last three contracts you have been seeing that we are going over our margins continuously. We thought we would make this much money on those contracts, but we are always cutting into the margin.
okay,
So what exactly going wrong? Maybe it is our staffing process, maybe it is our induction process, maybe there are more wait times, or maybe our invoicing process needs to get changed. So we have to understand and identify those right processes that need updates.
okay.
Apart from this, all these three that we talked so far are reactive methods.
Uh-huh.
There should be proactiveness in looking at process changes and
Okay,
process adjustments in the company. For example, while there are no customer complaint, but you are still looking for symptoms, or periodically you and your core team are sitting together and trying to see, okay, we have reached this stage, but why should we just sit here? Why don't we find a method so that we can take our performance a notch up?
uh-huh.
So doing those real core improvements by understanding the small changes that can be done, small fine tunings to the process. And this would be an ongoing exercise. A mature company, I would see them meeting maybe once a month to look at these happenings in their organization and trying to fine tune the process. So there's no fixed frequency per se, but don't let the process remain on the sideline for too long so that people become so engrossed in that process that it becomes very difficult to get them out of it and make them change.
Yes, that is good advice. One of the things as a small business in federal contracting that you've noticed, it is probably one of the few, there, don't get me wrong, there are quite a lot of vendors, quite a lot of companies in the federal space, but it is one of the spaces that a small company can go overnight from 5 individuals to 30 to 40 to 50 individuals, 50 FTEs. And at that level, it requires quite a different set of management processes. And
Yeah.
unless you have a process in place, unless you have some structure that you can follow, um, over the years, I've known some companies, some small companies that have blown up to a significant number of individuals, but somehow couldn't manage to stay there. And I suspect that a lot of the reason is they don't have any internal structure to support them.
Yeah.
Um, so processes or standards, I would imagine, be they quality standards or their service standards, can be instrumental in helping the company manage at the next level, which is what most small companies want to do.
Agreed.
So they've got to be, so these should be looked at, these standards should be looked at as tools for quality, for managing growth,
Mhm.
growth, and for uh, ensuring that things such as a cyber attack does not
Yeah.
take your business um,
See,
off the chart.
see, the way I see it, and as you rightly put it, I see these standards or models as the lights. They can
Mhm.
lighten your path. But to make full use of these lights, you need torch bearers. And what I've seen in companies, process accountability is not fixed, and everybody's accountability becomes nobody's accountability. An organization would, as you said, 5 to 50, if they zoom in size, well, they would be investing to get an HR, they would be investing to get a finance person, an accountant, maybe a BD guy, business development person, a proposal writer, but a process manager, well, that's the last role. But what
Mhm.
exactly this company is doing? They are actually delivering. So the delivery processes are core to their business, but they are delaying that particular onboarding indefinitely at times. So they have to
Okay.
get that role as soon as possible.
We have approached the 30-minute mark. Um, so I want to do a quick recap of some of the things we've talked about and maybe tell you a little bit about our platform, which is again called USGovCert. A lot of what we talked about today revolves around the need to have a handle on your standards as a small company and to make sure that your internal staff have ways of tracking how you're performing in terms of a given standard, how you're performing in terms of your cybersecurity responsibilities as a company. We have a platform called USGovCert that enables a small business to securely save their certification information so that a year from now, 2 years or 3 years from now, when it comes time to recertify, you're not scrambling looking um, for your data. This platform, USGovCert, really offers is the cloud subscription and we have the popular standards, the popular ISO standards, or CMMC or CMMI embedded into the platform. So if you have a need, if you have any questions about our platform or about anything that we've talked about today, please feel free to reach out to us. Again, this is Philip Denny, and with Amit Pan, a certification expert, uh, thanking you for giving us 30 minutes of your day today, and I look forward to talking again to you in a couple of weeks. Again, we have these webinars. We plan on doing the series on the upcoming um, um, the upcoming standard, the upcoming IDIQ OASIS, which has 8 standards embedded in it over the next month or so. So again, keep a lookout for us, and thank you again for giving us 30 minutes of your day today. Goodbye.